He's wave. There he is. His research interests include non-commutative geometry, cyclic cohomology, operator algebras, quantum groups, and Hopf algebras. And here I have Jude Kong. He is from York, and he's an expert in AI data science, mathematical modeling, and mathematics education. His principal research program focuses on developing and deploying innovative AI data science and mathematical methodologies and technologies to resolve complex issues arising from real-world applications in epidemiology, ecology, and data processing. And he is also the regional node liaison to the steering committee of the Canadian Black Scientists Network and a favorite presenter as part of the Fields Institute's Ask a Mathematician program. He is always one of the most requested mathematicians to come through. And finally, we have Tina Torkaman. You may recognize her from the film that we just watched, Secrets of the Surface. Hello, Tina. She is joining us from Chicago, where she's the Dickinson instructor at the University of Chicago and researches geometry. So thank you everyone for being here. I know it's getting late, so I appreciate your presence. And before we dive into any questions, I just wanted to give everyone a chance to just react to both films. It can be one film, it can be both, whatever you prefer. And we can start with you, Jude, if you would like.
Thank you so much. The both films are really connected. And before I start, I really want to thank George for bringing this to spotlight. This may exist at local level, but I can tell you with the type of communities I worked in, the moment some of these kids will see this movie, they will realize that it will not be only when that professor went into class and said, well, what does a mathematician look like? Wearing glasses, dressing with suit, but those kids will see something different. A lot of women will see that the Fields Medal, what the Fields Medal entail. A lot of women will then walk from there thinking, my dream goal is to win a Fields Medal. If there are just two women in the world, I have a goal to live up to. The subconscious memory pick up signals. But it's only when people like George are able to think and spotlight these nuances that we are not looking at, that the whole world have accepted that we live with it, that it changed the dynamics, that life no longer becomes a simulation that you simulate yourself through to get out on the other way, but we question the structures that exist and see what prevented that we have only two women that have won a Fields Medal over the years. Does it mean that the men were so better than the other one? Was it that we don't have a Black person or some other person of color apart from Miriam? Again, it could be that, well, we have talented work from the other group, which is great, but that would give something for other people to work towards becoming. So to me, I really want to thank George for bringing this. I do feel that this should be shown in all elementary school because it's very important. Like what we do at the Field Institute here of the Ask a Mathematician program is very important that you start bringing those questions to kids at the elementary school so that their subconscious will start picking those signals and asking those questions and then challenging them in a point where they start thinking of something to work up to. But when you allow them to fit into what exists, oh, only a particular group of people can win a Fields Medal. Oh, and mathematicians look this way. Then you bring a stereotype. Hello, my name is Jude Kong, and I'm a mathematician. I'm Black. I do wear suit, I wear tie, and I wear my lenses. I don't have them here, but I'll wear them soon.
Thank you, Jude. Tina, did you want to share your reaction to the films?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the kind introduction. Yes, I watched the Mirza Khani film a few times before, and it was my first time that I watched the journey of a Black mathematician, and I like both a lot. I think they both were impressive. One reason was I liked them a lot because of the variety of different people George interviewed in both. So we see different people with different reason doing math, with different perspective. So that's one thing I like. And the other thing was, I think George beautifully humanized mathematics in both of them. So we heard the people's stories that they talk about, they feeling about math. I like that a lot. We see that they have their own reason to doing math, or they have they had their own challenges in their path. And one thing nice about that, I think each audience they make feel connected to one of them, and then get inspired by one of them. So especially about the journey of Black mathematician, that we heard very different background and stories of people. And the last thing I mentioned, I like that how in both of them we see a nice sense of community between. We see that how math gathered people together with different culture, different backgrounds. So in for example, one thing interesting when I watched both was, so we heard about Mirza Khani's interest in surfaces, and in the second one, I think it was Professor Lawrence who talked about her research about homeomorphism of surface. And it was very interesting that we see two people from different, it's like universe, they get together by this common interest. So I like that aspect a lot too.
Thank you so much. And Masoud, did you want to weigh in as well?
Yes, hi. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. It's great to be part of this panel. Yeah, I mean, I really want to thank George for making these movies and other math movies. I think it's just great and serves a great purpose. I see similarities between the two movies, actually, because, I mean, so they have been filmed, I mean, they're about people living in far apart, I mean, huge distances from each other and different circumstances. But I think both movies really shows triumph of human spirit in overcoming challenges. And yeah, I mean, so challenges have been very different. For example, in the case of Mirza Khani, I mean, we know she's the first woman, so there was no role model. And the background she grew up in also was a bit more challenging. And also for Black mathematicians in the US, there was the other types of challenges, but these people made it, and they're making a difference. And I found both movies extremely positive, actually, very, very positive and empowering to watch and to show to students, younger students, even high school students, to bring them to reality of what mathematics is all about. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say for now. Yeah.
Thank you. So George, I think there's a fair argument to be made that you could be considered the math documentarian right now. You've spent your career telling stories, not just about math, but about the people behind the math. And often math being considered an esoteric and difficult subject to the public gets seen just as a series of numbers and not for the people who create the pathways for those numbers to come to life. However, I've noticed that in the last couple of years, your work has started focusing on these subjects that are very much part of the cultural moment and the discourse. What was happening around you and in the math world while you chose to make the films on these two subjects that we just watched?
I have to really credit the Mathematical Sciences Research Institute and the long collaboration I've had with them for allowing me or helping me make these films. And the ideas and discussions with the people at the Institute, which is now called the Simons-Laufer Mathematical Institute, really led to the production of these films. And it's that collaboration that brought this kind of subject to production. And well, I wanted to back up. I think it's wonderful to see Tina. I haven't seen her in person since we shot a scene with her. And was that 2018, perhaps?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
In Cambridge. And I'm really happy that she has moved forward in the field, and to hear her comments is just really a delight for me. But I have to say, she said something about humanizing the subject. In the way I look at it, it's really my only trick. It's the only thing I bring to the table, is to present the human beings who engage in the mathematical and mental activities that they are passionate about, and to try to give some sense of where that passion comes from. In the case of every one of the mathematicians depicted in not only these films, but the others. And that has been a constant theme. It's almost a routine for me to look for that. And it's really all I have to bring to the table, because I believe that the public cares about people, and that they may be afraid of mathematics. They may be intimidated by the pursuit of knowledge. But they are interested in humans. And if you can trick them into paying attention to the human beings, and then you can maybe get a little bit of smuggle a little bit of that passion and the ideas that those people are involved in into the film. And that's really all I do. So it's not too much magic, but it's that one thing that I think I can contribute. I'll leave it at that.
I think you bring a little bit more than that, but that is definitely a part of it. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, not just with the ability to humanize the mathematicians behind mathematics, but also in the bigger themes that we're here to discuss tonight. And often what happens when you're attempting to correct injustice or fix a systemic oppression, you can't necessarily get the public to respond to an idea, but you can absolutely get them to respond empathetically to a personal story. So if they know someone who has been a victim of oppression, or they have loved someone perhaps who historically is gay, or has been oppressed, or comes from an underrepresented group, when they meet that person and love that person and see that they're just people like everyone else, this is the moment where they can start to connect to a broader movement to correct something that needs to be corrected. So this is really what the magic in these films is, through the humanization, not just of mathematicians, but of the bigger topics behind these films. And I wanted to ask Tina, and you do allude to this in the film, but it was amazing to watch an entire school and then country of women see themselves suddenly in Maryam Mirzakhani, someone who did this incredible thing and achieved these incredible things. And suddenly there was a thing that was possible. And you have spoken about how you went to her high school and there was this electricity there. There was this magic, knowing that she had walked through these halls and sat in these classrooms and done her math in this room. And I'm wondering how that legacy impacted your attitude toward math and the attitude of your fellow students. And did the idea that a female student from your high school could win a Fields Medal change things for you?
Yeah, so yes, one side of that is usually people as an Iranian, as a Iranian female, you feel proud that another Iranian girl achieved to that high level mathematics. That's one side of that. But the other side is that when I was in high school and I see myself and my friend, so at that age, you have many questions like, is it, for example, for the one who has interest in math, you have many questions like, is it possible to be a mathematician? Is it possible for me to have a successful career in math? Is it possible even as a girl in Iran, especially in Iran, because schools are separated, the girls and boys, so you don't know that. You ask yourself that, do I have the chance to compete, for example, in Olympiad? If I want to participate in math Olympiad, do I have the chance to compete with boys? Because you might feel isolated, or you don't know where you stand. So this, I think at that age, a student, they overwhelmed with this question, and all of them is about, can I do, is it possible? And I think what is powerful about Mirza Khani's story, and her friend Roya Beheshti, she also was in the same high school, was that they strongly give you the answer that yes, that it's possible. So, and I think it's very so it's very critical moment for everyone. Even in the most documentary, people mention a lot about the first time they met someone, first time they heard a story, some first time that a wall break in their mind, that they told themselves, I can. It is the moment, and I think that's the maybe the most important step you take, that you say, okay, you let yourself to try for that, to consider that path. And in my school, I'm including me and many of my friends. I saw that we had this. It was like a light in our in that path, that we see. Oh, okay, maybe someone done that, someone like us in the same situation. So it was, we let ourselves to also try the path. One thing I remember, so in our school, there was a small room. It was called the Hall of Honors, something like that. It was a very small room that they put a picture of a former student who had good achievement in competitions or Olympiads, things like that. And I remember with my friend, many of us we studied for math Olympiad, or some of us, they studied for Olympiad in informatics. I remember whenever we felt discouraged or lack of confidence or get tired, we went to that room and look at Mirza Khani and Roya Beheshti's picture, and it was a source of energy for us, that it reminded us what was possible, what was achieved by them, and it let us, it motivated us to keep pushing forward the journey.
It's funny. Professor Bloom was referring to the Olympics at the end of her slides, and they have just wrapped up, and it was really wonderful to see after the last couple of years we've been through, just that joy in place and in friendly competition and in achievement. And you know, something as international as the Fields Medal will also inevitably stoke a pride of place. You know, you're rooting for your team. Here in Canada, we're like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Fields Medal. You know, we've never quite gotten there. But it's something we're all striving for. And it's arguable that there are a few Fields medalists who are as beloved and revered as Maryam Mirzakhani for so many different reasons. Not just because she's the first female winner, but just also because of her incredible achievements and her genius. And from the documentary, it seems just also like a wonderful human being. So beyond being an emblem for female mathematicians, Masoud, is she also also someone for Iranian mathematicians. There must be something that has a lot of pride and encouragement as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think her winning the prize was really so uplifting and so inspiring for all young Iranian students, and not just in Iran. I think in many places, actually, maybe I could say global South even. Although I don't like this word, but I still use it. Yeah, but so I think and Tina spoke very well to that. So she explained exactly the effect. I think, but I can mention my own maybe experience, because I went to the same school, actually, Sharif University. And I remember when I was undergrad, I knew all these, I mean, not all, but a lot of Fields medalists, and I knew what they did and what they got their prize for, more or less. But then I thought that the distance between us and them is just so wide. It just, the gap is so wide. We will never get there in, like, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, it's just so wide. It looked amazingly impossible. But then things happened. Then things happened, and there she came, Maryam Mirzakhani, and extremely positive thing. I mean, it also shows the success of education system, modern education in Iran, more or less. I mean, basically the country has started modernizing its education system more than about 100 years ago, in 1925, more or less, and it constantly improved. And yeah, I mean, I see Fields Medal of Mirzakhani as basically combination of several factors. Of course, her inner talent and innate power and drive, a good education system that was provided for her, and also international collaboration. The fact that she could come to the States and work with some of the best people in the field. All these factors are important. So that means we should keep the doors open for collaboration all the time. That's something really kind of message that also involved here. Without international collaboration, yeah.
The one thing that I thought tied both films together really well was the realization that representation is pretty much the most important thing that is required for any movement forward. You could see that beautifully in the way that the women, Maryam Mirzakhani's fellow female mathematicians, created a protective barrier around her so that she wouldn't be pulled in a million different directions. She was not someone who sought the spotlight. She just wanted to do math. And they came together as a community to protect her. And then you saw the professor at, I believe it was Morehouse, and he said that the most important thing for him was to walk in a classroom and see an entire room full of young Black math students and mathematicians, and never seen that before. And what that just absolutely blew his mind, that was a thing that was possible. And it's this idea that it's possible that needs to exist, and it can exist if it's created. And that's the work that needs to move forward. Jude, you have done so much for your community, not just as a mathematician, but as a Black mathematician trying to build out opportunities and networks. Can you talk a little bit about your experience and some of the hurdles that you've had to jump?
I think you're giving me a lot of credit, but like Josh rightly said about the Institute, the Field Institute saw me when I just got my job, picked me up nowhere, up in a position where other Black could see me as a Black mathematician through the Ask a Mathematician program. And they saw me and they saw that, oh, a mathematician could look like me. And I will step back to talk about that. Without the Institute, like Josh Riley said, he wants to thank the Institute for supporting him with these movies, to spotlight these movies so that people can see that, well, Miriam became a Fields medalist. is same as what the Field Institute is doing here and other institutes around the world. Same as all of us here are doing in our labs. Again, throughout what I will be talking about here is about us thinking, how do we move to a position where when we look at student, we don't expect that student will submit applications to do summer work in our labs. We don't expect that some particular group of students will, because if you look at the movie here, a lot of the blacks there had uncles that were in research. That's why they went to mathematics. A lot of them spoke about that. And a lot of students said, mathematicians don't look like you. Why? Because only the few end up stemming out. And again, I'll build a story. The question I always want to push to all of us here is, can we in a various university, like what the institute are trying to do, look at somebody and create a mathematician, realize that if you grow up in a situation where you realize somebody doesn't look like you, instead of putting that pressure that the young student from Iran said, that light bulb moment, it will never come to you, because that light bulb moment comes when you force yourself to want to understand something. Then that particular moment comes when you say, oh, I got it. But if you have been told over and over that this is not meant for somebody like you, that light bulb moment will never come. We need to do a lot of work, and that's what the institutes are doing. If within a particular period, people like you were not allowed to read and write, and then at a particular point, you were sent to communities where your education was different from other people in other communities, you could only acquire a certain amount of education. And because your fathers were not allowed to read and write, what they learned was to dance, play football, which was very difficult, play sport, fight, and entertain some other people, which was very difficult. But then you tend to learn about those things. Very difficult. That means that by the time you get into university, if you're a professor teaching, you start at a certain level based on the curriculum. Well, based on your environment, because of what you have learned, you're at a different level. It doesn't mean another person is smarter than you are. Then people put certain conditions, and then you realize that they expect you to be this way. And then you drop out thinking that this other person is smarter than you are. The question I want to push to all of us as professors here, as researchers, is how do we ensure that we make sure on our own, because we don't have control over what happened within school district, fill that gap that's lacking. I was born in a very tiny community, and growing up in most of my community, like other people, I was raised by a single mom with 5 kids. I never thought I was gonna go to elementary school. Primary school was, or secondary school to say, was where I was going to end. That's where my sisters ended. I never knew of any job apart from becoming, in my community was all about religion, becoming a priest. That's what my friends finished school, and the school could pay them to become reverend priest. That's the only profession I could think of, even when I was in any level in my school, because those were the people that were well-to-do, or to come back and teach in my school or work in the farm. And the reason why I'm building this story is you think of it as what you have in your community where you feel that everybody is different at a different level. It's completely different. The story is different. And how do we watch this movie and said, how do we make a lot of Miriam? And in growing up there, going to school, my main goal was finish and go and work in the farm where my sisters were supporting my mom. You all raise each other, because if your parents, with this farming, it's not like the first industrial revolution ever reached my village. We don't have tractors. So it's hoe, cutlass, clearing by yourself. And at that point, even when you're learning in school, you don't think of any goal. Either you want to go to seminary or you want to go to the farm. And when you managed, based on the community level, to get yourself to this particular point, and you find yourself there, and other people who may not understand the context in that type of community, the question I always want to pull to my colleague is, how do you look at other students within your class and said a lot of students will not apply because they don't know what research is all about, and said, I reach out to them to be able to fill that gap. You ask me how I got where I got here and fill those gaps. How would somebody grow in a tiny community where what small-scale farming is a key, where nobody has ever gone to school in his family? Nobody has ever gone to secondary school, talking of high school in his family, breakthrough. Yes, communities do breakthrough through a movement. They don't see any other person. But communities at some point feel that we don't leave this kid out there. But the question I want to ask is, how do we ensure that we send our hand to those communities and uplift those ones? Institutes are doing their best. Are we in the level of university doing that particular best, like what the Field Institute is doing with the Ask a Mathematician program? How do we build a lot of those programs to ensure that the big kids like me? I will tell you, finding myself here talking to you today is not a dream. A dream is what you want to become, what you have seen in your subconscious memory. My friend talk of seeing other people in the physics lab. A miracle is where you find yourself when you least expect it. I've never dreamt of becoming a professor. I've never dreamt of becoming a mathematician. I never dreamt of going to secondary school. How do we get people and create miracles out of something that did not exist in their subconscious memory? Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for all the panelists. Just even to go beyond this representation, there are people who are forging paths through resilience, through brilliance, through community support. And then there's what happens when you get there, right? And there's a Black writer in the States. Her name is Ijeoma Oluo, and I saw her speak on a panel a couple of years ago, and she's a really smart and talented writer, and she said she wanted to write novels, but she has ended up becoming an author of critical theory on race and race relations because she was just dealing with it nonstop in her life. And she was articulating it and she was really good at it. And so she ended up just writing books about this and speaking about this. And the one thing she said is, I try not to think about what I could be doing with my life if I didn't have to spend all my time writing about this and thinking about this. What could I be writing about? What could I be doing with my life? And there's an element of that for everyone who has to overcome barriers and prejudice in order to just do the thing they want to do, which in this case is math, right? And how much of this work to forge paths and be the first person is taking away from a brilliant mind that just wants to do research. And I would really like to ask everyone on the panel what your experience of that is like. Which is a big question. I understand. So anyone who wants to chime in, please, how do we do better than that? How do we just let people do math?
Let me pick my mic. Okay. What the institutes are already doing is very helpful. When the institute create programs that are very specific and try to push forward the notion. It's very difficult when you find yourself in a table or when you find yourself in a chair and find nobody that looks like you, either through allies or through people like institute that care about you, because it's very difficult to sit on a table or a chair on that table. You want to make it, you want to squeeze yourself and have others sit with you. Or you want to make a table when you don't have a table to sit on. And a lot of the time, people will judge people based on their productivity and compete with others without realizing the other impact of the work they are doing on the other side, which I always want to call on other people to always say, have we looked at the other impact of the other work that others are doing in building this capacity, in making those tables, in making those chairs? We'll have a lot of fields medalists if people were to be encouraged and they have enough time to do that. But it's very difficult because a lot of people, you don't know what you don't know. a lot of people do not understand the dynamics in certain communities. I cannot, on every week, since the Field Institute introduced me to the school board, every week I'm creating mathematics club within the school board. I cannot on a weekly basis be able to sleep when I know kids will be excited and think about mathematics differently. Parents will start coming to university and said, I'm thinking about mathematics. Why is this important to me? We're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. Before then, when people were kicked out of certain communities, they could create jobs. They could work in Walmart. They could work in other places and create jobs for themselves. But those jobs will be automated. For which communities? A lot of jobs will be created in this industrial revolution. How could you sleep leaving that out? But if I were to take all those time and bring these kids and empower them to be able to do research, where will I be? Maybe, okay, I'm almost turning 40, I will never get a Fields medalist. Well, maybe I will be one of the Fields medalists. But how do we not regret that point, but appreciate and celebrate the number of kids that we're training? And how do we ensure that we get a lot of people in the community, because a lot of people do not know what they don't know. When it comes to mathematics, even our social sciences, mathematics has been known to forget about equity and judge people based on equality without realizing that people start from different perspectives. How do we move mathematics to a point of equity and not equality where mathematicians have always looked at? It's pretty difficult, but that's a judgment that mathematicians put people in, which means that it's very difficult to be able to bring them to that point. But a few that are sitting here today, including you bringing this topic up, including George, including the Institute, including the Fields Institute, that took somebody like me that's known by nobody and opened doors for me and brought me to school to be able to do the work and uplift other kids, will always be there to help. And it's very difficult to question what you should be doing if you were doing something else, because there's nothing better than not leaving other people behind from your community, because within that community, you will not be where you are. So to them, community is very important. There's nothing much more than that particular community. So what will I be doing if I were not doing this? I'll be somewhere crying. But what should I be doing is go back to that community and uplift others. Why others are pushing me up like the Field Institute? You find allies like the Institute, but then you need to send your hands and bring the others. I think my research is moving because I have other people holding me. I'm blind. I'm nowhere, opening doors for me. But then I cannot go through those doors and leave my community behind. I need to go back and drag my communities with me. Thank you.
That was a beautiful answer. Thank you. Tina or Masoud, did you want to weigh in? Did you want to offer your perspective?
Yeah, I can maybe add something. I mean, so yeah, I mean, the importance of people is, I mean, okay, there's no denying that every individual makes a difference, but I should also emphasize that, like in the case of Iran, for example, I mean, success of someone like Mirza Khani really depended on a lot of things that been done there already. So you need a good public school system. You need these schools for example, well, maybe maybe I don't say you need, but certainly there was these schools for gifted students. That it's extensive system of these schools. You have them in all provinces, in states, in bigger cities. These houses of mathematics, for example, you need good high school math teachers. All of these things play a role. I mean, these amazing achievements like Mirza Khani's don't just come as one shot example. I mean, another instance of this, that it's not just her. I mean, Iran in recent times has produced amazing number of very good scientists, very good mathematicians, actually, and physicists, people in other fields. And this speaks to that there is an infrastructure, there is a support system, there is a structure there that these young people can take at least their first steps there. Yeah, I mean, okay, so individuals play a role, as I said, but also we need a good infrastructure supportive system in order to produce more examples like Mirza Khani. Yeah.
I would, can I echo that in a way? I think that the difference between the two films reflects a difference between the two educational systems. And my hope is that the film about Mariam Mirza Khani will reverberate in the minds of the American public, who lacks the kind of secondary, primary educational system that is very strong in Iran. And this may come as a surprise to people in the United States and North America, but it's a fact. And I think this is what Masoud was talking about, that the educational system at the lower levels is very strong and is capable of producing people like Mirza Khani, Roya Beheshti, and countless others. We lack that infrastructure in North America at the very lowest levels. And so if we are looking for equity, there isn't even a playing field at the lower levels that you would want to join, that you would want to imitate. There are some elite schools, but nothing at the bottom end. And so I think that you can look at this profound difference between the two films and think about the educational system. The second point I would like to make is your question about what would I be doing if I weren't trying to right social wrongs? I think that one can always look at the problems of mathematics, the beauty of those problems, as a kind of magnet to the public imagination. And I think mostly in the educational level, there is not enough emphasis, perhaps because the teachers are afraid of the material. There's not enough emphasis on the beauty and the range of unsolved problems, of just admitting that there's so much we don't know. And that's what mathematics is all about, trying to attack the unknown. And that, I think, is a powerfully attractive idea that is not presented to students, certainly in our society. It wasn't presented to me when I studied mathematics, but I think it's missing in the general educational curriculum. The idea that mathematics explores the unknown.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, this is the kind of perception even by highly educated people. I mean, they think mathematics is something rigid, has been done, been discovered long time ago, and we are just learning it and passing it to our students. The idea that there are so many math journals, there is active research programs going on, and all these beautiful things that's happening, it's completely lost on people. I think they have an idea what physicists are doing. They're discovering new things. There are open problems, or all other fields except mathematics. I don't know. I mean, maybe people think mathematics is just so hard that cannot be discovered again. It's already been known for a long time. So that's just that's a very good point you raised, George. Thank you. Yeah.
I also just confirm what George and Masoud said. So when I see, for example, in Iran, the people in the generation of Mirza Khani that they did math, although one of them get to be a superhero, and now the whole the world know about her. But when I see, it's like it's like that there was a movement for. So when you look at, suddenly there was a group of a student in the same age of Mariam that they get. Suddenly, Iran got very good in math Olympiad, and they many of them they continued math, and they are very good mathematician now. And I don't know what exactly maybe happened in educational change. What educational change happened? But when you see suddenly a group of different people from different school, they all get you see a sudden progress in the community, then you say probably there was a positive change in the system. And I see I think in high school, I think a huge motivation for people to get involved math and become interested in Olympiad. But in undergrad, although we in undergrad, despite of high school, that we have a very, I think in Iran, in general, it's has a good level of education, but in undergrad, the problem is lack of research, as George said. So people want to know that it's always a thing. You feel math is very serious, rigid, it's hard to convert. So you need some source of motivation that tell you, no, it's not, it's approachable. Let's try it. And I think it is also this, even if you like math, you do well in the competition, but when it gets to research, you again has this this challenge that what about research, because it's about open problem. You feel that it might be very hard. Or even I heard from many people who did studied mathematics that they told me personally that why you want to study math, all the important problems solved, what you want to go and like answer an open problem in analysis, you think something left. So it's not like we think someone who's not familiar at all have these thoughts. It's very common even for the one who studied math. So I think maybe in Iran now I see maybe it would be helpful if we have more source to encourage a student to do a small, maybe baby research problem that they feel they feel a little bit confident to start that. One thing good in US happening now is REU, that I think it's something that helps a student in that way.
So I have a final question for everyone. Not at all big question at all. How do we do better? We have improved, things have improved. We saw the data, it has improved in a very small way and very incrementally, but it has improved. What can we do to make more mathematicians from everywhere? By the way, nobody has solved this, so don't feel like you have to come up with a definitive answer. It's just perspective. Yes, George.
I don't think that there are going to be fewer mathematicians. I think that the direction of computer science and data studies requires the production of more mathematicians, and will probably consume too many pure mathematicians in the process, and not leave enough for really great research. But I think that we're going to have plenty of mathematicians. The question is where they come from and who they will be.
I would like to add that it's very important that as mathematicians, we really place equity when we try to recruit students to our lab. A lot of students have been turned off right from elementary school because they've been told by a counselor that this is not for you. And a lot of people turn off completely, and then they move towards different discipline. Or when students come and meet other people because of the history, the culture in the school system, elementary school, which is not caused in the university. The problem is not in the university. The problem is right from elementary school. They are completely turned off, and then they join other students, and then they realize that, well, my friends always go towards this particular discipline. In order for us to create a lot of fields medalists, we need to do a lot of work at the elementary school to empower them, to change their subconscious memory to think differently. Once you empower people to have something to look up to, then we'll get to a point where we can create those. But it's not going to work if we focus on communities that do not need that support. The problem is a lot of effort is being put on people that will otherwise still do well. They don't need that particular support. How do you move on to look at communities that without your effort, they will never think of mathematics differently? And that's a bigger question, and that's what we at the Field Institute here we've been doing in terms of the Ask a Mathematician program. But in the broad sense, how do we, even we're just professors, we don't have effort within the school system because it's very complicated. How do we, within our classroom system, get students to start thinking differently? Even within our classroom, we're teaching the basic first year courses. A student feel differently when you point to them and you talk to them. They don't drop out. How many students drop out from mathematics to social sciences from different backgrounds, especially the Black community? How do we ensure that we don't have those drop out for the few that have even succeeded to get into mathematics to move to other disciplines? Why do they drop out? If they have been told something by their counselor, you will not succeed. I have a lot of students that have been told by their counselors in high school, mathematics is not meant for someone like you. And they even struggle because of where they come from and then end up finding themselves in the university. How do we ensure that they do not drop out within our class system? Is there a particular way we can't readjust our teaching system, our research, to ensure we bring them on board? Again, there are multiple ways. We all know how to do this. We are great teachers. How do we ensure that we don't treat everybody equally and ask different things that motivate other people that feel that this professor care about me, and they start, the moment they realize you care about you, the mindset changes, the subconscious memory changes. Are we moving towards that point? Oh.
Tina or Masoud, did you want to add a final thought?
Not particularly. I think we said a lot of things. Yeah, if you need to produce more mathematicians from places that haven't produced more mathematicians, again, I want to emphasize, we really need to build a vast system of good public education. That's very important. That's very, very important. To produce very good math teachers at elementary school level, at high school levels, and then create maybe perhaps these schools for gifted students, to identify them, to train them, and to have these extracurricular math programs. It's really a consequence of a mass production that will produce sometimes those exceptional cases like Maryam Mirzakhani and Fields medalists in general. But the bottom line is that with each of them, usually hundreds of other very, very good, excellent mathematicians, scientists are out there to that they grow up together, and that's important. It's never ever one smart person against all odds. It's never like that. It's just it's really about building infrastructures, building support systems, building having a plan. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah.
I think for the sake of time, I think we should perhaps offer the audience maybe one or two questions, just because you've all been sitting here so patiently for the last couple of hours. If I can, if that's okay with everyone on the panel, because I know it is late. Okay, great.
And this is for everybody on the panel. One of the things that I see that's the hardest thing, you've touched somewhat on it, is what I would call peer pressure, or especially for not underrepresented groups where the majority of the people, if not all the people in those groups, are not mathematicians, not scientists. And how do we encourage those who are in those communities, who are not themselves to be mathematicians, not to be scientists, but to promote more, so that somebody doesn't get told at an early age that this isn't something from our community does, or to make sure things like that aren't be told, or that they aren't affected in school by their peers and things. There's a lot of peer pressure, I think, as well. I mean, we saw all the great mathematicians who are doing all the great work, but that's only a small fraction of the people see. And that's sort of an open-ended question.
It's okay if I go ahead? Yeah. Oh, well, I'd like to thank George for making all those wonderful movies. And I'd also like to say kind of the flip side of what Greg was saying is that I think we saw in both of these movies the importance of role models and the importance of a solid peer group. And in Maryam Mirzakhani, we saw somebody who really achieved excellence. And part of what helped her to achieve that was her friendship with her friends that she could both share and compete with in a friendly way. Friendly competition is really important. And but also, I think we saw that she did have role models. She had her teachers in high school, her women teachers who were being very supportive of her. But we also saw for the Black mathematicians the importance of role models, especially, but also the peer groups and the being able to walk into a room and see people like you who wanted to talk about math and share it with you and be part of it. And I think that's an incredibly important for all mathematicians as they grow and strive and achieve.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone on the panel for being here. Thank you, George, not just for the beautiful films and the important films you make, but for beaming in from California to join us. Thank you to Masoud for coming in from London, Ontario. Thank you to Tina for joining us from Chicago. And thank you to Jude for commuting in the city of Toronto from York University to come down. As anyone in this room knows, it is not for the faint of heart. So that is commitment. Thank you to the audience for coming. And I hope you enjoyed the films and this illuminating conversation. And we will see you at the next panel.